Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. Austin Linney here. I've got a really good friend of mine, Mr. Tal. How you doing, sir?
Doing great, brother. How are you? Thank you for having me on. Really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, man. This is going to be a fun episode. Tal's a multifamily investor out of Cleveland, Ohio, real estate agent, a lot of different stuff, runs the Cleveland Multifamily Mooring Group. So, why don't you kind of start us where you want to start us, my brother, about your investing career, maybe even how we met in the first time. I'll really leave it up to you.
Yeah, for sure. So, it's been quite a journey, obviously, for everybody. But I can kind of start where me and you met because it's a good kind of turning point for me in my life where I was going. So, I think it was 2 Decembers ago, I joined a mastermind group called M1. Where I talked to a guy and he said, yeah, you got to talk to this guy, Austin. It's basically like I was at the point in my life where I really wanted to surround myself with, I don't want to say better people, but people that were doing things that I was aspiring to do, that were, making moves, wealth, real estate, things like that. So this mastermind wasn't specifically gauged around real estate, but I talked to someone and they're like, yeah, you got to talk to this guy named Austin. I'm like, okay, cool. So I talked to Austin. And he's like, oh, I told him my goals about real estate, what I wanted to do is before we did anything or bought anything like that. And he's like, yeah, you got to talk to blah, 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 blah. He ran down 4, 5, 6 people I needed to talk to that were doing actively multifamily investing in this mastermind group. So I'm like, okay, cool. Talked to a couple guys. My goal that year was to buy our first apartment building, minimum 16 units. That was the goal. So I was talking to a couple of these guys at Austin, hey, connect with these, few guys from M1. So I was talking to one of them, Skylar, actually, and he changed my life here. He goes, I told him my goal is to buy at least one 16-plus unit multifamily building this year. It's like, dude, scratch 16. Let's do 100 units. I'm like, huh. It's kind of scratch my head. I'm like, okay, why not? I don't know. Fuck it, let's go. That's just kind of, I don't know how you are with cussing on here, but
all good.
That's just kind of how it started, man. And last year we acquired 57 units, and then 22 so far this year. We have a bunch more out, in the street, in the pipeline. Pretty close on a few, but it's been quite an exciting journey so far.
So I'm going to go back there for a minute because that's a very important point. Two things. One, I was looking for a mastermind for a while too. When you, and I think you'll speak on this, when you surround yourself with a higher caliber or people pushing it, type A's and people that are investing stuff, they really make you stretch the limits of what you thought was possible. And maybe by happenstance or maybe just by saying, well, whatever, we're just going to do it, it allows you to stretch your goals even harder. And that's when I really realized, I was like, wow, there's really, you can do anything you want. And I think that was a big thing for me.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the thing is, at least for real estate, other businesses and things are different, but these guys and men and women, they're not geniuses by any means. You know what I mean? They're very ordinary, straightforward people. Some are analytical, some are better talking to people, but once you get to talking to them, they're just like you and me. You know what I mean? They just put their heads down, knew what they wanted to do, which was investing in multifamily real estate. They did that, and they did a very good job at it. So that's kind of where I'm at now. You know what I mean? It's when you're, to your point, when you surround yourself with those people, first of all, yeah, it's possible, but it just motivates you to do that. You're like, well, why am I not doing that? Why am I not pushing hard, buying more deals? Because the more you, it's I don't say intoxicating, but it kind of is. You know what I mean? It gives you kind of that real life in-person motivation. So we can all listen to podcasts and do things like that, but once you're in person, it's definitely, for me at least, gets my blood going.
So let's talk about the first deal. Let's talk about the first deal that you ever did, because a lot of people would just buy a single family residence to get their feet wet. That's not what you did. So let's talk about that first deal and kind of walk us through that whole process.
Yeah, of course. I'll rewind just a little bit to give you guys a little bit of context. It was like about 4 years ago, I discovered multifamily real estate. It's interesting because my grandfather is actually a pretty big developer here in Cleveland. He did a bunch of multifamily. He did very well for himself, but I was never really involved in the business. So I was actually listening to a podcast, heard a guy named Grant Cardone on someone else's podcast, and he was talking about multifamily real estate and providing this product and, multiplying your money, different things. And I'm like, wow, a light bulb kind of went off in my head. And I was like, cause I was kind of looking for, I don't say my passion, but looking for really that next move to make in my life. So found the multifamily real estate, like I said, it was about 4 years ago. So that was, 2016, so at that point we're doing already 7-8 years going up. In my mind, okay, I'm going to start underwriting deals, kind of just practicing and doing my thing, mastering my craft. And then once the market turns, prices get better, we'll start buying. So I'm like, okay, there was 1 year that happened. Then another year that happened. Then I'm like, okay, we just got to get in here and just be a little more careful because we could sit on the sideline forever. Like if it goes up for another 10 years, like I don't want to be, I'm just going to wait for the downturn. So really kind of pushed me to jump in the water, start submitting offers and learn how to work with a market that's on the higher end of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing. And I have a theory, and you're going to love this. I don't know why I thought about this the other day, but I meet all these young kids. They're like 18, 20, 25. I got a friend in Texas, Adrian Salazar, who has like 67 units already. He's 23 years old, 24. And then you meet these other guys that are like 30, 40, 50, and they've been learning multifamily for like 5 years, and they haven't pulled the trigger. And I think almost by a lack of knowledge and not giving a shit that these young kids just amass units and they're like, oh, well, like we don't know what we're doing, so we're just going to figure it out. And one of the things that I get so sick of is like you can learn. Like you need to know what you're doing, obviously. But at the end of the day, like the only way that you're going to really truly get stuff done is if you get in the arena, right? And being in the arena is more than sitting on the Zoom call and learning about multifamily. And that is walking properties, that's networking. And I think that's what that you have done lately in the last year and a half. I think that is kind of where you're just making offers, right? And it's not even about executing on the offer. It's the feeling of making the offer. I think that's more important than the actual execution of the offer. What do you think about all that?
For sure. It's like Michael Jordan says, I don't know the exact quote, but you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So it's like, put your offer in, put your number at them. Because at that point, if you submit an LOI, a letter of intent, you've already gone through the process. You've gone through your underwriting. You have an understanding of the asset. Whether you were walked through a unit or you didn't, you've already gone through like, this is where I'm comfortable offering for this could be a multi-million-dollar building. And it really puts you in the position to say, I'm confident, this is what I can do. And we're going to execute on this. Because the most important thing in this business is to do what you say you're going to do. So if you say, you're going to buy it for $3 million, you better close on it for $3 million unless something, comes up or, some unknowns. But what you just said hit it right. I was thinking about it. I'm like, wonder what Austin's going to ask me later, So regarding doing the first deal. So our first deal it wasn't passive, but it was more on the passive end. So I'm going to talk about the second deal that was more hands-on, A to Z, direct to sellers. It was really a learning experience.
Okay.
So I was at the point kind of where I'm like, okay, I've listened to all these podcasts, done these books, blah, blah, blah. We should get into a couple deals so I can learn and actually see what's going on behind the curtain. Because everyone's saying the same thing, the cap rate, you raise the rents, you do this, you do that. But it's like, okay, I know it's a little more complex than that, but so let's get in there and do it. So this 22-unit deal here in Cleveland is an interesting scenario. Actually, someone brought the deal to Benoit, Molise, Jamie's partner. And this was sometime middle of last year, I think. And it was like a wholesaler bought in the deal. He called me because he knows I'm in Cleveland looking to do our thing. So we go there, meet with the seller. And long story short, we put under contract and his financials did not shake out. He wanted like next number. We had to do Y. So long story short, we part ways. But key here, we parted ways on good standing. I called him every once in a while. David, how you doing? How's Florica doing? I hope you guys are doing well. And then 6 months later, he calls me. I get a call out of the blue. Hey, Tal, how you doing? It's David. Something came up. I want to sell my building now. Are you still interested in pursuing that? And keep in mind, he's having all these brokers call him. People are calling him, to wholesalers, all these people, but it's a nice building. So he decided to pick up the phone and call me because we developed that relationship. You know what I mean? This is truly a relationship game. If I didn't do that and we left on bad terms, he would have never called me back. So he calls me. That's the key number one, honestly. You know what I mean? It's just a relationship game. For me, at least, very, very long term. So calls me back. We kind of renegotiate, and we come in at about $100,000 less than where we were originally, which is pretty significant for this kind of asset. From there, we went through, did our due diligence. We were, rocking and rolling. It's a very straightforward mom and pop building, below market rents. They were just kind of sliding by, self-managing, doing their own thing. So we saw a lot of opportunity in going to implement like an interior renovation plan. We were paying $5-6 a unit, go in, do the kind of cosmetic interior, floor paint, fixtures, things like that. So before all this, the craziest thing happened with the lending. We were kind of like locked in with a lender, and they were telling us one thing, and then at the end of the day, they couldn't perform on that. It's neither here nor there. So we were, got a loan from somebody else, actually a mortgage broker, connected us with a lender out in New York City that we had an absolutely terrible experience with. We were like on the eve of closing, and they email us and say, hey, we need laundry list of items from you and the title company by closing tomorrow. And this is like at 4:00 in the afternoon when we're closing the next day on Friday. And keep in mind, the seller had a balloon payment that he already postponed once that was coming due on Tuesday of the next week. So we're like, we can't there's no way to, this is it. We got to get it done. So it was like 3-4 days of just absolute craziness. We got it done that Tuesday, and the title company literally, we had the cutoff was like 3:00. She's like 2:59. I just refreshed it, got it, sent it off to the county to file. I'm just like, so it's like, this is talking about negotiating with lenders and going through hurdles that happen and having the correct documents prepared for when you get into a deal. Like, these are things that people don't really talk about on podcasts and things very often.
They never talk about any of this stuff. Yeah.
It's just like, you got to get in there, get your hands dirty. And then of course, we got in, and there were 4 vacant units at the time. There was like 1 or 2 when we put under contract, then 1 or 2 people, one person bought a house and another person moved out. And we're like, okay, just leave those empty, because our plan is to go in, we have a bridge loan, renovate these as quick as possible, turn it and refinance our cash out. Like, okay, cool. Boom, a nice head start. We close, the contractors come in, do the reno or the demo, and the renovation ends up being a nightmare also. 3-4 months or just like craziness. One subcontractor fired, this guy's fired, brings in another guy to finish, and it's just like hard to wrap my head around, And it's like you hear about all these things, but until you get on the ground and go through some crews and interview some people, you won't find those people. It's not going to be rainbows and perfect from the first day, because it's not, never is. So just don't be afraid to start. That's the biggest thing.
1,000%. What are you telling yourself in those moments when shit's going sideways, to keep ahead on straight?
Oh man, it's Lauren, my fiance Lauren, helps me a lot. It's like for me, I know I like to tell myself that we're really putting our best foot forward and doing all the right things. So what we have this problem, what can we do to solve the problem proactively? Call our attorney, call the title company, get the documents. I was literally just in grind mode to get them every single little thing that they needed. Even the broker was like, Tal, you've been so on point from day one. Every single thing we needed, you've had it right away. Because for me, that's what I'm going to do to get the deal done.
I think at the end of the day, in every situation, right, as you're saying that, I'm thinking to myself, is make sure that you're not the problem, right? Make sure that you're not the problem. Like, you're getting the documents that are needed when they're done. I never want to be the cause of any reason why any deal or situation is being held up, and that has how I can sleep at night and know that I've handled my part.
Right, of course. And for the lender, on the lender's point, like, yeah, he asked us for all these items the night of closing. If he asked us a week before, it would not have been an issue. Like, some of these title searches take 48 hours as a rush. So it's like, we can't, like, this is literally not possible to get it done.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if we had a week ahead of time, we would have had them everything they need. Because I understand when you uncover another entity and then this entity, you need to see all the operating agreements. And, I understand all that. But it's like, if we know ahead of time, we can get it to you. So I'm really big on, hey, this is what I said. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to execute, and to no matter what. You know what I mean? It's the most important thing.
So how many units do you have total right now?
So we have 79 units right now.
And then
our partners closed on a little. What'd you say?
When did you start investing?
We closed our first deal not even a year ago, about a year ago. I think it was in like September of October last year.
So I guess what I'm trying to drill down so we can get the most value out of it, and I'm not saying this is the scenario for everybody, but I did the single family route, and and I have 3 houses, sold one, gave one away in the divorce, stuff like that. But I found the single family is so much headache for one house, right? And I look at the not light speed, but I look at the movement forward, like, when soon enough you'll close on 120 unit and then you'll have, 200 units and stuff like that. And I feel like, now granted, you got to have a team. It's not, you can't, single family and multifamily are different. You got to have a team, but I that's why I gravitate towards it more in the future, because, you might have 50 units, but it's all at least under one roof, right? I mean, is that kind of what you're thinking in the big scheme of things?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Grant Cardone spelled that out for me. The first time I heard him talking, he's like, you got to have the scale, If you have 32 units, excuse me, 2 people move out, you're still at 95% occupancy. If you have a single family, 1 person moves out, you're at 0% occupancy. I'm just like, that stuck with me so hard. I'm just like, that doesn't, like, I can't grasp that. There's one roof, one insurance policy. Like you said, we're like, right now, like in the pipeline, we have a few hundred units. Like, and we could, I don't want to say easily close a couple hundred of them, but like, these are direct to seller, like pretty solid opportunities that, can really close pretty soon. Excuse me. And it's, I think the most important, not the most important thing, but something that's extremely important is the team that you have, because without the team, you can't do this multifamily thing by yourself. If you're a billionaire, you're multi-millionaire, yeah, you can try and do it by yourself. But even then, you need to partner with property managers, contractors, lenders. Even if they're not on your payroll, they're still your partner. You know what I mean? Because they are doing the deal with you throughout the whole process. And I mean, for me, when back to sorry to flip flop, back to the single family thing, I just couldn't bring myself to doing the single families. And it's funny, when I found the Grant Cardone, I was actually driving for Uber and Lyft looking for a job. I got my degree from Ohio State in economics, couldn't get a job in real estate, didn't have the experience in it or whatever. So I'm like driving Uber and Lyft 8, 10, 12 hours a day, listening to podcasts half the time. So I was at the point where I couldn't get a job, right? Drive for Uber, Lyft. We were about to move back to Cleveland so I could just work for Lauren's dad as an electrical contracting company. Get a call. We'll go to work for this real estate brokerage where I work for their, larger client and just do single family fix and flips. So I'm like literally doing fix and flips for this guy. I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. My eyes are still set on multifamily. I was like, like you said, it's what makes sense to me. The scalability, it's, like, even when you're talking about multiplying your money, you do it in multifamily. You can't really do it in single family. So
let's talk about that, because you know me. I've got, we've got multiple businesses, but that's just me and it works for me, and I've got a team and they take care of it. But that's very important concept for people to wrap their head around, is you pick, this is where I'm at, and just let it be that. And you can't get discouraged when it doesn't happen right away. This is not, I tell all my guys that work for me, if you're building your life off of legacy and you're constructing a life of a lifestyle, guess what? That doesn't happen in 90 days, 30 days, 6 months. That's a 50-year, 60-year process. So there's
Right.
no rush to get anywhere. And what people need to understand is if we do catch a downturn or we do catch a big correction, by not buying or just holding on, you're actually getting ahead. And that's what people don't get. It's a simple concept. But, I just interviewed, it's coming out tomorrow, Gino, and Gino Barbaro. And I said, one of the most important things that I love about their system is they do not buy outside of their buy box. They refuse to do it. They'll go a whole year without buying. And I think the discipline in that, meaning keeping your focus in one direction, is very powerful.
Yeah, it's very, and it's tough too, because especially once you're at Gino's level, they're hit with so many different opportunities and businesses and investments. It's like, you really need to, I don't want to say stay in your lane, but like do what you're good at, do what makes sense for you. And for me, that's multifamily and being a broker on the side. But, it's like 1 + 1 = 2 for me. That's how this business feels.
Yeah.
And
I think one of the things that impressed me about you, most of all, it's mainly Lauren, but she's amazing. Y'all are a great couple, and I think it's a winning combination for sure. But I view you as next to me as one of the most relationship-driven real estate agents and investors I've met, and I know that that's played a big part in kind of your role. And so why don't you talk about that a little bit, about your views on relationships and building connections and stuff like that?
I mean, it's everything. It could be hands down the most important thing in this business, in any business. It's your word is bond. Like my grandfather was a developer here, still around for about 60+ years. Everybody knows who he is because he did what he said. Here's a great story. My grandfather, he started with one house, and he built 2 houses, then a street, a block, et cetera, et cetera. Many, many, many years ago, he sold someone a house. And 5 years later, some concrete broke. They called him up, and he came back and fixed it free of charge because he was like, yeah, anything happens, I'll take care of it. He didn't need to do that, but that's just like his word. He said, I'm going to do it. This is what I'm going to do. So it's like when I first came back to Cleveland, because I was born and raised in Cleveland, we moved back here. It was really coming back, reintroducing myself to the real estate scene. You know what I mean? So it was at a point where I just needed to get my name out there, tell everyone who I am, what I'm doing. So it was literally taking as many meetings as I possibly could. This is who I am. This is what I'm doing. How can I add value to you and your business? So it's like just doing that for the past year and a half has been extremely valuable. And now, my name's starting to get out there, what we're doing, what we're looking for, starting to see some more off-market deals. So, it's 2022. If you wrong somebody, the internet's going to know immediately. Everyone's going to know. So it's like, I'm only 29. This is a very, very long-term game for me. I would never jeopardize something today that would, potentially hurt my name long run. It's just, but it's a mindset, it's short-term versus long-term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we all want short-term success as well, but we're going to have that also, but it's like the mindset needs to be set on the long term.
No, it's just one of those things where like everybody's like, oh my God, Austin, your network is so amazing. You must have got that in a day. And I'm like, no, I've been working on this since I was 17.
Right.
I'll be 39 this year. And like, I worked at some of the best restaurants and bars in America and like met people and, and the thing is like, I'm also willing to do things that other people aren't willing to do. And like, I just told Jamie Gruber this last night when we were on the phone, I flew to Michigan for a meetup and there was 100 people there and I got to see you and I got to see other people, but I'm thinking to myself, like, there's 7 people from that meeting alone that I met that we might do business together. And then I flew across the country to a meetup in Arizona. And through that meeting, I have 2 business partners, the guy I'm working with and for, and I moved to Arizona. It's like, and the thing is like, that was on my dime and I didn't know it was a meetup on a Tuesday on Monday at 2:00. And the thing is like you make a choice every day on how you're going to be portrayed and what you're going to do to get you where you need to go. And the thing is more importantly, there is an extreme level of intention driven through the center of my life that this is what my strength is. So I do it. And it's the same way of like, when you're talking about a team, I did the whole, I'm going to learn multifamily thing, and I went in there hardcore and tried to learn and just realized that it wasn't my thing. It doesn't mean that I don't know enough to be dangerous. I can walk 150 unit and ask all the questions I want, but I would rather do business with people that know and love it and breathe it and let me focus on what I focus on. And I think that's what you're talking about on the team level, is that especially multifamily investing is a massive team sport. And that is something that I love about it too. Also, like I'm not saying people aren't trying to get deals from other people, but I don't find it as cutthroat as single family investing.
Yeah. I mean, it's, without a team, like I was saying, it's very hard to go far in this business. Like I've even seen a bunch of sellers that they try to do it by themselves, them and their wife, and they buy 2, 3, 4 buildings, and that's kind of it. That's not bad by any means. That's what they needed and wanted. It's enough to get them in a nice house and kind of sustain them throughout their life. We have, more ambitious, larger goals than that. So for us, we are setting it up. We're setting the foundation, the concrete foundation, in order to build that. So we've aligned ourselves with a couple partners, that have, a couple thousand units that now we are partnering with them. We're presenting offers with them. We have the track record, et cetera, because to take down these deals, you need to have a large net worth and you need to have a large liquidity, because when you're taking these loans, you have to have the loan amount, you need to have 100% of that in net worth and 10% of that in liquid money. Mm-hmm. So you need to show that right off the bat in order to get any of these multifamily loans. Mm-hmm. So right now we're looking at a 135 unit deal, it's multiple, millions. So it's like, I don't have the net worth for that. Now we're aligned with these guys, and theoretically, when we take one of these, a couple hundred unit deals down, we'll raise $1 million, $2 million. And that's from us and our passive investors, Passive investors are friends, family, and people literally, like you just said, they're like, you know what, I like this, but I'd rather give you $25,000, $50,000 so I can keep grinding and make another 50 and then just give it to you, because it's not passive when you're in my role. You know what I mean? It's when you're getting the check every month for our passive investors, that's passive. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, it's very active. You need to be, there's oversight. Even if you have third-party property management, you need to be involved, making sure they're doing what they need to do, hitting their numbers. So,
and something I want to make very distinctive, and I want everybody to open their ears, because this is extremely important in multifamily. The largest price does not win, baby. This business is about closing deals like that. And when you close the deal, you get validation. And they go with the people that can lock the deals in. So this is how you get stuff done. It's not the largest price all the time, because these deals fall through all the time. And it's really about, can you execute and can you do what you say you're going to do? And that's really what matters. And then once you do that, like once you close on a 135 unit, then you get other 135 sent to you because they know you can close. And that's what it's about. I mean, you're looking at a system, one of my favorite people in the world is Chris Grinzik up in New York, who, for Toro Capital. And, they said they put 11 offers in on a 1186 units. And he's like, well, we only got like 7 of them. And I'm like, that's pretty amazing. But like, once you're getting the system and they know you can close, like these are the deals that are getting sent to you. And so what I'm trying to say to people is like, you can't lead with price all the time, right? It's about relationships, doing what you say you're going to do, and then finding the friction point within that seller's pocket and removing it. And that's how you get stuff done.
100%. You got to find out what the seller wants. And like you said, sometimes it is price. You know what I mean? But more than price, they want to know that you're not going to waste their time. You're going to close the deal.
For sure. So let's spend the back part of the podcast talking about personal development, which I know that you're huge into reading books. I know that this is a big thing for you, and the mastermind and stuff like that. And like, okay, how old are you now?
29.
29. So this is my favorite new question. I'm using it on all the podcasts. If you were to have a conversation with the 20-year-old version of Tal in college, and you were to give him words of wisdom and books to read and all that kind of stuff, what would you tell that guy if he's getting started in real estate?
Don't be scared. There's nothing to be scared of. Go fail fast. Even though go learn fast, because for me, a long time, there was fear involved, and fear of losing my money.
Where was that fear? Like, let's get real. Where was that fear sitting? Where was that from?
It was really fear of losing my money, mine and Lauren's money, our investors' money, doing a bad deal. That's really what it was. And then it's like, I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm not, this is literally, the numbers are what they are. It's a cash flowing business. It's been done for hundreds of years. And then once we did that first couple of deals, I'm like, okay, that fear, it just like disappeared, to be quite honest with you. Like, now we're making offers on these large properties and there's no fear involved, and we submit a $5-6 million offer. I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm fucking ready to do it. You know what I mean? So that was, start, I don't want to say start sooner, but just don't be scared.
No, it's one of those things, and it's so weird to say. As I step back and I look at real estate and investing in businesses or whatever you're doing, just in general, when I sold my first real estate property, and like I played it back in my mind, like how I bought it, like what we did to it and everything, I'm like, that was like, oh, like you kind of know what you're doing, like, and you did it, like, and so like yeah, we made money, like great money, like don't get me wrong, I doubled my money like in 2 years. Who doesn't want to do that? That's awesome. But it's so much bigger than that, because it's like to be corny, it's like Braveheart scene, you just throw the damn thing and you're like, fuck it, I can do this, man. and that alone, you can't put a price tag on that. And when you close these deals, the thing that's never talked about enough in real estate is momentum. And once you get that ball rolling, is a game changer.
Yeah, I feel like that, excuse me, I feel like that's where we're at right now is, we've closed a few of these deals. Now we've aligned with these few partners. We're cold calling, doing direct mail, these really cool things. And we feel like you feel that momentum building. And it's like I said, like this month, we could put 200 units under contract. We're in the position to do that, but it's only because we're doing all the things in order to have that happen.
And something I'm going to give you a piece of advice, and not that you're not think this way already, but somebody gave it to me and I thought it's just very beneficial. Pun intended. Be careful that you're not living the life that you meant to be constructing. And so what I'm saying is, there's a life that we seek, right? There's a life that we seek, that we dreamed of, that we want, that 20-year-old Tal dreamed of, that he could already be living right now. And this isn't 35, at 35, like, if you put 200 units under contract this month, that would make it like 275, and you've been investing for like not even a year. Like, think about that. Like, when you step back and you're like, holy crap. And like, what people don't see, because I've seen it, because your lovely girlfriend posted sometimes, is like, you're on the phone at 9:00 at night. Like, this is not by happenstance. You didn't fall into 200 units. Like, you're putting in the work, and there really is no substitution for the work, for the relationship building and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, no, definitely not. You gotta, people want to think it's passive and it's sexy and all these things, and it is in the long run. And for me, it's sexy because I love the business and the apartment buildings and walking through them and providing these amazing places for people to live, not like slumlords. Like, that's like really our big why with the apartments, to really provide a clean, safe, and beautiful place someone can call home, not just like an apartment to rent. It's so much more than that. You know what I mean?
There is people don't seek the meaning. They see asset or they see transaction. They don't seek the bigger meaning, right?
That's
And you know what I'm saying? Like there is something to be said to giving Bob, Frank, Sally a wonderful, clean place for them to come home where their kids grow up and have memories. Do you not? Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's so much bigger than that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we all want to achieve financial wealth and independence and all these things, and we will achieve those through this, but look how much good we can do simultaneously, while at the same time providing financial wealth and abundance to our investors. So it's like, and to your point, everyone sees the deal, the transaction. Oh, like, I don't know if you know David too, but you probably do from down in
Yep.
Austin.
Mm-hmm.
He's got, almost 1,000 units now, 24, whatever he is. And you hear a lot of stories like that now. But it's like, you don't know how many hours and hours of work he put into it. You know what I mean? Yeah, he got aligned with the right partner, but that's because he invested in himself and invested in that mastermind group.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason. And that's like what we did. We did the same thing. We're like, you don't know. We dropped all this money to join a mastermind group that we luckily got matched up with a good coach that now we're partnering with deals on that's got 1,000 units.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I used to have a podcast and this guy told me, Tal the Magic. It's like the most successful chiropractor in the US, maybe even in the world, like some per capita, like something absolutely insane. And he said, Tal, the magic happens in the unknown. You're going to go to that meetup. You don't know who you're going to meet. You could meet your next business partner. You could meet that person that's going to completely change your life. Mm-hmm. You could go to the gas station right now and meet some old man that wants to sell 200 units to you that'll totally change your life.
No, dude, this is my new thing, bro. And it just happened to me twice. And I swear to God, this is very important, guys. Proximity is power and it's everything. Dude, true story. When you are picking a hotel or you're going, like, I love when Grant Cardone says, like, you're going to the 10X conference because you're trying to see the people on stage, but who you truly should be seeking is the people sitting next to you. I learned this when I went to Sacramento for an event. I stayed at a really nice hotel, a little more than I would normally, but I met like 2 investors because of it. Be surrounded by, dude, I rented a Tesla just because I wanted to drive one in Scottsdale, and I met 2 people for my podcast at the charging station because they drove Teslas. And I'm like, and so now I do that when I stay at an Airbnb. I make sure it's a little nicer. You don't know who they're going to be. And the thing is like these you don't know. And so I'm not saying you have to be on all the time. That's not what I'm saying. But you have, if your mind is open towards all the possibilities that are available, then that's all that matters. And so because I wake up every day and my why is centered around lifting people up every day of my life, it's not centered around a dollar amount or transaction. That's an infinite sum game. You cannot beat me because I'm just trying to help people. And it wasn't until, which I think is one of the best books ever. There's a bunch of them, but Kyle Cease wrote a book called The Illusion of Money, and the reason that you have it is because you want it. And he was saying that, like, you know, because your money's just it's air, it's whatever, it moves through everything, but you can't control it. And when you remove the focus off the unit count or the dollar amount or whatever, and you're just trying to be financially free or have a lifestyle or so on, so then your competition doesn't stand a chance because you're working on a different playing field. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, so everyone says, what's your why, and figure out what's going to push you more than the money. And it's like, it doesn't just come to you overnight. Like, we're still fine tuning it, sharpening it, and digging deeper always. I think for me, it's just like an ever evolving process, game, whatever you want, career, whatever you want to call it. It's but it's a blast. I love it. And I think we should be teaching this in kindergarten. So at least people have the knowledge, say, hey,
yes,
even if I don't want to do this, I can save some money and then invest in this. You know what I mean? It's like, I just can't wrap my head around it, truly.
No, I mean, the Templeton, the guy that I'm working with here in Arizona, we've been talking about making courses for kids. And it's like, the more and more I think about it, the more and more that makes me so excited, because I was a different student. I didn't, whatever. I didn't love school and everything like that. And the thing is like, this is a true story. Like, this happened to me, changed my life. And I actually called him like 3 months ago and like thanked him, like, true story. I was at my friend's house in high school at the time. I was 17, and his dad tapped me on the shoulder, handed me Rich Dad and Poor Dad. And he said, "You're different. Read this." And I read that book. My dad's a doctor. And I read that book and I'm like, oh, mother of God, I don't have to go to college. Like, this, it was like, it like changed my whole shit. And what I'm saying is, like, we have a tendency. I just heard one of the best podcasts I've ever heard in my life with Seth Godin and Aubrey Marcus, and he was talking about how the school system in America literally has not been updated since like the 1800s, and like we're just in this rigid society of like creating factory workers, and it doesn't allow space for free thinkers, right? And so I was just pigeonholed into, he's a problem child, whatever. But like, also, like, this is not an ego thing, but like my brain power, like my IQ is like super, super high, but like it's different. It's not book high. It's like street smarts, common sense,
Yep.
stuff like that. And I don't think that that's championed enough in this society.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. You're preaching to the choir, dude. I mean, like, even like my stepdad's super successful too, and he didn't go to college. He's just like street smart. Knows how to work hard and do what he said he's gonna do.
Mhm.
And I mean, they had a nice little business that they did, but it's like, for everyone, it's different. You know what I mean? But it still comes back to whether you're working at Amazon, it still comes back to relationships. If you want to move on up, you need to have those relationships with higher ups. If you want to invest in real estate, you need to have those relationships to get the deals. If you want to raise money, you need to have the relationships to raise that money. So it's like, no matter what it is, sales, it's relationships, marketing, like, it just, I feel like, keeps coming back to the same thing.
No, it is, and it's the currency. I mean, it's the currency because, the guys that work for me, I'll just give you a quick story because it happened just yesterday. It's fucking hilarious. Like, he seeked me out. Now he's my assistant. Now he's working for me. He's going to be a project manager. So he's like, damn, like, this is great. I'm working for you now. Well, now he's working for Templeton. Now he's working for, and he's like, holy shit, what happened? He's like, I've only been in real estate 6 months and look who I'm working with. And I'm like, you created this, and here we are. And here's how quick, being surrounded by the right people, like, he's going to get, like, regardless of what he gets paid, which is fine, but he's going to learn more in a year than he'll learn in 30 years not working for these people. And there is a correlation between on-the-job training and what the thing is this. One flip is not going to get you retired. A 56 unit is not going to get you retired. So you have to look at things from a larger perspective on the stepping stones to get to that ultimate thing. And then, more importantly, this is what the greatest thing is. More importantly, Tal's views on his goals 5 years from now could be entirely different. Like, you could, like, and I'm not saying this is the case, I'm just making up a funny story, but you could be like, I'm going to go train lions for the rest of my life. Like, but like, you will have set yourself up financially to make that decision. And I think that's what his life is about.
Yeah. I mean, you hit it on the head. It's, to be able to construct my own life, you know what I mean? That's what we're doing here. And that's, I don't fit in the box, never have, I never will. Mm-hmm. So, some people do, and they're happy, and that's good. Was not happy with that. So, it wasn't easy. It's still not easy, even though, like, getting started was very tough. You're brick wall, you know what I mean? It feels like you're failing, but it's like, you just got to keep doing it,
That's all you can do. So how do they get a hold of you? How do they find out about what you got going on? I know you got the Cleveland group.
Yeah, of course. So you can find me on Facebook, Tal Tamir, TALTAM as in Mary, IR. People can reach out to me with any questions. Tal, TAL at ltcapitalgroup.com. You can follow us on ltcapitalgroup.com. We have some things that are changing around. But yeah, if you want to reach out to me myself, reach out to Austin. He could be the gatekeeper, but
For
happy
sure.
to, talk to anybody.
I seem to be. Well, dude, I appreciate it so much, guys. If you like this episode, make sure you share it with your friends. And I just really appreciate y'all for listening. And thank you so much, my brother.
No, thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. It was a great time.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.